This looks fake.
It's not fake, officer. You can call the permitting office. Numbers on the bottom. They'll confirm it in 30
I
seconds.
don't need to call anybody. I've seen these knockoffs before. You people print them at Kinko's and think nobody
Sir, I've
notices.
been vending here legally for 12 years.
Officer Kyle Reynolds had no idea the man he was about to harass on South Beach was about to cost him everything. In the next few hours, this white cop would lose his badge, receive probation and a heavy fine, and the city of Miami would be forced to pay substantial compensation to the real victim here. Vance Cooper, a gentle, hardworking black veteran who was simply trying to earn an honest living selling cold water to tourists. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Drop your answer in the comments. Vance Cooper was the kind of man who made the world feel a little brighter just by being in it. Born March 12, 1979, in Atlanta, Georgia, he grew up in a small two-bedroom house with parents who worked double shifts so their children would never go hungry. His father, a city bus driver, and his mother, a hospital cafeteria worker, taught him 3 rules: work hard, speak softly, and help whenever you can. Young Vance took those lessons to heart. By age 12, he was mowing lawns for widows on his block for free, carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs for elderly neighbors, and volunteering every Saturday at the church food pantry. Teachers still remember the quiet boy who always stayed after class to clean the boards so the janitor could go home earlier. At 18, Vance walked into the recruiter's office and signed up for the United States Army. He wanted to give back to the country that had given his family a chance. 2 tours in Afghanistan tested every ounce of the character his parents had built. In 2002, during a night patrol near coast, his squad was pinned down by heavy machine gunfire. Vance crawled forward under tracer rounds, dragged his wounded squad leader 30 meters to cover, and kept pressure on the man's femoral artery until the medevac arrived. The Silver Star citation still hangs framed in his living room. 4 years later, in 2006, an IED ripped through his Humvee outside Kandahar. Shrapnel tore into his left leg and shoulder, but Vance refused morphine until every other injured soldier in his vehicle had been treated. He came home with a Purple Heart, a permanent limp on rainy days, and a quiet determination to live the rest of his life making sure no one else felt as alone as he sometimes did in the desert. Discharged honorably in 2008, Vance moved to Miami the following year looking for sunshine and second chances. In 2010, he bought his first vending cart with savings from his disability check and a small loan from his uncle. For 12 straight years, he wore the same bright orange vest every single day, the one that clearly displayed his current city-issued license. Every morning at 5:15 a.m., he loaded 200 bottles of water into coolers packed with fresh ice, wiped the cart until it gleamed, and walked the 2 miles to his usual spot on South Beach near 12th and Ocean Drive. He never blocked sidewalks, never raised his voice, never pressured anyone. Cold water, $2, coldest on the beach, he would say with that warm, deep Georgia, Miami accent that made tourists smile before they even answered. Vance wasn't just selling water. He was giving people a moment of kindness in the brutal Florida heat. Families with crying toddlers received an extra free bottle for the little one. Elderly couples got directions to the nearest shade and a gentle warning about the strong current. He remembered names. Miss Karen from Ohio, how's that grandbaby doing? And kept a mental list of regulars. Part of every day's earnings went into a jar for the local veterans shelter. He coached his son's youth basketball team, helped his daughter with spelling tests, and still found time to sit on the porch with his wife Lisa every evening, holding her hand and talking about their dreams of one day opening a small snack stand together. Standing 6'1", with the broad shoulders and calm posture of a man who had carried heavy rucks through mountains, Vance had rich dark skin that glowed under the Miami sun, neatly trimmed black hair, and warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. The small scar along his jawline from shrapnel only made him look more approachable, like someone who had seen hard times and come out gentle. The bright orange vest stood out against his skin like a beacon, making him easy to spot from half a block away, which is exactly why Officer Kyle Reynolds noticed him that day. Vance had never been in trouble with the law. Not once. He paid his taxes early, renewed his vending license the first week of every January, and taught his children to respect police officers even when he heard stories from other black men in the neighborhood about unfair stops. He believed in the system because he had worn the uniform himself. That belief was about to be shattered in the most public and humiliating way possible. But before I continue, let me know in the comments if you have ever seen a pattern like this in your town. Type justice if you think good men like Vance deserve better from the people who wear the badge. I'll be right back with the rest of this story. Officer Kyle Reynolds was exactly the kind of cop who made people cross the street when they saw him coming. 34 years old, 6'2", buzz-cut blonde hair, pale skin that burned red after 10 minutes in the Miami sun, and pale blue eyes that never seemed to blink when he was angry, which was most of the time. Born and raised in a working-class suburb outside Jacksonville, Kyle grew up idolizing his uncle, a retired state trooper who loved telling war stories about putting people in their place. That phrase stuck. By high school, Kyle was already the kid who called the principal on classmates for smoking behind the gym, who wrote anonymous tips to teachers about lockers with weed, who believed rules existed to separate the good from the bad, and he was always on the good side. He joined the Miami Beach Police Department straight out of the academy in 2014 at age 22. For the first 3 years, he was quiet, competent, wrote clean reports, and got decent performance reviews. But starting around 2017, something shifted. Complaints began trickling in. A black Uber driver said Kyle pulled him over for a wide turn, screamed at him for 30 minutes about, "You people thinking you own the road?" Then let him go with no ticket. A Haitian street musician claimed Kyle kicked over his tip jar by accident during a noise complaint call and laughed when the man bent to pick up the coins. In 2019, a group of black college students filming a music video on the beach said Kyle approached, demanded IDs without cause, and when one asked why, replied, "Because I don't like the way you're looking at me." Body cam footage from that day mysteriously corrupted, and the complaint was closed as unsubstantiated. By 2021, the department had received at least 7 formal complaints against him in 4 years, all involving black or brown civilians, all dismissed for lack of evidence or officer discretion. Internal Affairs never sustained a single one. Kyle's supervisors called him old school, patted him on the back for keeping the riff-raff in check, and quietly reassigned any partner who started asking too many questions about his methods. He wore his silver badge like armor, kept his service weapon polished to a mirror shine, and practiced his command voice in the patrol car mirror every morning. He believed, truly believed, that people like Vance Cooper existed to be moved along, controlled, reminded who was in charge. July 19, 2023. 2:47 p.m. South Beach, Ocean Drive at 12th Street. 94 degrees Fahrenheit, heat index 108, the kind of afternoon where the air feels like wet cotton against your skin. Tourists in flip-flops and sunburns drifted between pastel Art Deco hotels. Reggaeton thumped from a rooftop bar. Palm fronds clicked overhead in the hot breeze. Vance Cooper stood beside his gleaming silver vending cart, orange vest bright as a traffic cone, arranging bottles in neat rows of 10. He had already sold 137 waters that day. His cooler was half empty, his jar for the veterans shelter held 47 in crumpled bills and coins. He was humming an old gospel tune under his breath, smiling at a family from Wisconsin who just bought 4 bottles and left him a $5 tip for being so nice. Kyle Reynolds cruised by in his white and blue Ford Interceptor, windows down, AC blasting. He spotted the orange vest from 50 yards away. Something about the color against dark skin always caught his eye first. He slowed, pulled to the curb, killed the engine. The radio crackled with routine calls, nothing urgent. He stepped out, boots hitting pavement with purpose, right hand resting casually on his holstered Glock, left hand already reaching for the taser on his belt. Tourists nearby instinctively stepped back a few feet. They could smell trouble the way animals smell thunder. Vance saw the officer approaching and straightened up politely. He had dealt with police before. Routine license checks, friendly waves, the occasional "thanks for your service" from vets who recognized his limp. He reached slowly into the small zippered pouch on his cart where he kept his laminated city vending permit, current through December 2023, photo ID clipped to it. "Good afternoon, officer," Vance said, voice calm and warm like always. "Hot one today? Huh." Kyle didn't answer. He stopped 3 feet away, legs planted wide, chin tilted up slightly so he could look down even though they were almost the same height. "You got a permit for this operation?" Kyle asked, tone flat, already assuming the answer was no. Yes, sir. Right here? Vance extended the plastic sleeve slowly, 2 fingers, palm up, no sudden moves. 12 years on the street had taught him exactly how not to startle someone with a gun. Kyle snatched the permit, glanced at it for half a second, then flipped it over like he was checking for a hidden watermark. His lips curled. This looks fake. Vance blinked once. It's not fake, officer. You can call the permitting office. Numbers on the bottom, they'll confirm it in 30 seconds. I don't need to call anybody. Kyle snapped. I've seen these knock-offs before. You people print them at Kinko's and think nobody notices. The words landed like a slap. Vance's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. Sir, I've been vending here legally for 12 years. Same spot, same license. Every January, Kyle stepped closer, boots scuffing sand on the sidewalk. You arguing with me now? No, sir. Just explaining. Hands where I can see them. Step away from the cart. Vance raised both hands slowly to chest height. Officer, there's no need. Shut up. Kyle's right hand dropped to the taser. Yellow spark chamber visible. You're under arrest for unlicensed vending and resisting. I'm not resisting, Vance said quietly. I'm cooperating. Kyle didn't listen. He yanked Vance's left wrist down, spun him toward the cart, and slammed his chest against the metal frame. Bottles rattled. Ice sloshed. A family 10 feet away pulled out phones. 2 teenagers started recording. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever watched someone get treated like less than human right in front of you? Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in that moment. Kyle twisted the cuffs on hard enough to make Vance wince. The veteran's bad shoulder popped audibly. He bit his lip to stay quiet. Tourists gasped. More phones came up, and that's when the real storm began. Let me know in the comments if you think this kind of power trip should cost a badge. Type justice if you believe men like Vance deserve respect, not handcuffs. Vance Cooper felt the cold steel of the cuffs bite into his wrists the moment Officer Kyle Reynolds ratcheted them down. Not the usual click of standard restraint. This was a hard, deliberate twist, metal edges digging into skin already scarred from years of carrying 70-pound packs through sandstorms. Vance's left shoulder, the one that still ached when the barometer dropped, sent a sharp jolt up his neck. He didn't cry out. He never did. Instead, he exhaled slowly through his nose, eyes fixed on a palm tree across Ocean Drive, counting the fronds to keep his breathing even. Kyle shoved him harder against the vending cart. The metal frame groaned. A dozen water bottles toppled, plastic cracking on concrete, ice scattering like broken glass. Vance's right knee buckled slightly from the force, old shrapnel damage. But he caught himself, refusing to go down. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Kyle growled, breath hot against Vance's ear. Resisting arrest. That's a felony, pal. I'm not resisting, Vance repeated, voice low and measured. My permit is valid. Call it in. Shut your mouth. Kyle yanked the cuffs upward, forcing Vance's arms higher behind his back. The veteran's bad shoulder popped again, louder this time. A small involuntary grunt escaped his lips. That sound was all it took. A woman in a red sundress, maybe 30, standing 15 feet away with 2 kids, already had her phone up. She hit record the second she saw the shove. Oh my God, she whispered to her husband. He's hurting him. Beside her, 2 college-aged guys in tank tops pulled out their iPhones. One zoomed in on Kyle's face, the other captured the full scene: bright orange vest, silver cart, ice melting in the heat, black man in cuffs, white cop towering over him with hand on taser. Kyle noticed the phones. His pale cheeks flushed darker red. Put those away, he barked, pointing at the nearest kid. This is police business. Filming is interfering. Nobody moved. More phones rose. A crowd of 20, then 30, formed a loose semicircle. Murmurs rippled. He didn't do anything. That's just water? Why is he so aggressive? Kyle spun Vance around, pushed him toward the patrol car. Vance stumbled once on the uneven sidewalk, his limp more pronounced now, but kept his head up. He locked eyes with a little girl clutching her mother's leg. He gave her the smallest, softest smile he could manage, the same one he used when coaching his son's basketball team after a missed shot. It said, "It's okay. Don't be scared." The girl's mother pulled her daughter closer and raised her own phone higher. Kyle opened the back door of the Interceptor. "Get in." Vance ducked carefully, head first protecting his injured shoulder as best he could. Kyle didn't wait. He placed a heavy palm on the back of Vance's head and shoved. Vance's forehead clipped the door frame. Not hard enough to break skin, but hard enough to draw blood from a fresh scrape. A thin line of red appeared above his eyebrow. Kyle slammed the door. The sound echoed down Ocean Drive like a gunshot. Inside the car, Vance sat perfectly still, breathing through his mouth, now because his nose was starting to swell from the angle of the shove. He stared straight ahead at the metal partition. His mind went to Lisa. His wife would be getting off her shift at the community center soon. She'd wonder why he wasn't home by 4 to help with dinner. Then to his kids. His daughter's spelling bee was tomorrow. He had promised to quiz her one more time tonight. Outside, Kyle stood with hands on hips, glaring at the crowd. "Disperse," he shouted. "Show's over?" Nobody left. A man in a Miami Heat cap stepped forward. "Sir, we all saw what happened. He showed you the permit." Kyle turned, eyes narrowing. "You want to join him? Keep talking." The man raised both hands but didn't back up. His phone was still recording. Kyle muttered something under his breath, climbed into the driver's seat, and started the engine. The lights came on, red and blue washing over the pastel walls of the hotels. Siren gave one short whoop, more for show than necessity. He pulled away from the curb, tires squealing slightly on hot asphalt. Vance watched South Beach slide past the window, laughing tourists, rollerbladers, the ocean glittering like shattered diamonds. He felt the first warm trickle of blood reach his eyebrow, drip onto his orange vest. He closed his eyes for a second. "Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever felt completely powerless while someone with a badge decided your fate in seconds? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments." At the station, things got worse, much worse. Kyle marched Vance through the back entrance of the Miami Beach Police Department at 3:12 p.m. No gentle guiding hand this time. He gripped Vance's biceps hard enough to leave bruises, propelled him down the hallway past other officers who glanced once, then looked away. Processing room. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, smell of burnt coffee and disinfectant. "Sit." Kyle ordered, pushing Vance onto a metal bench bolted to the floor. Vance sat, cuffs still on, blood drying on his forehead. He asked quietly, "May I make a phone call, officer?" Kyle snorted. "You'll get your call when I say you get your call." He walked out, leaving Vance alone in the room for 47 minutes. No water. No bathroom break. No first aid for the cut. Just the hum of the AC and the distant murmur of radios. When Kyle finally returned, he had a stack of paperwork and a smirk. Unlicensed vending. Resisting arrest without violence. Obstructing governmental administration. You're looking at a nice little vacation, buddy. Vance looked up, eyes steady. "My license is in my cart. Or call the city office. They'll tell you." Kyle leaned in close. "I already told you. I don't believe it's real. And even if it was, you resisted. That's on body cam." Vance almost laughed, a dry, tired sound. "You never turned your body cam on, officer." Kyle's smirk faltered for half a second. Then he straightened. "Watch your tone." He left again. Vance sat there another hour. His shoulder throbbed in time with his heartbeat. His bad leg went numb from the awkward angle. He thought about the jar of money on his cart, door 47 for the shelter. He hoped someone had secured it. At 5:04 p.m., another officer, younger, Hispanic, name tag Rodriguez, came in to fingerprint him. Rodriguez looked at the cut on Vance's forehead, the blood on the vest, the way Vance winced when he moved his arm. "You okay, man?" Rodriguez asked quietly. Vance nodded once. "I'll be fine." Rodriguez hesitated, then leaned closer. "I saw the phones out there. A lot of phones." Vance met his eyes, said nothing. Rodriguez processed him in silence, then led him to a holding cell. "Before I continue, let me know in the comments if stories like this make your blood boil. Type justice if you think no one should be treated this way, veteran or not. Share this if you believe accountability starts with calling it out. The real turning point was coming, and it would arrive with federal badges. The holding cell at Miami Beach PD was small, concrete, painted institutional gray that had yellowed under years of fluorescent light. A single steel bench, a stainless steel toilet in the corner with no privacy partition, a slot in the door for trays. Vance Cooper sat on the edge of the bench, still cuffed behind his back, because Kyle had forgotten to remove them after booking. His orange vest was smeared with dried blood and street dust. The cut above his eyebrow had stopped bleeding, but throbbed with every heartbeat. His bad shoulder felt like someone had driven a nail through the joint. He had been there since 5:37 p.m., no phone call yet. No Miranda rights read aloud on camera. No medical attention. Just the echo of slamming doors and muffled voices from the bullpen. At 7:19 p.m., the slot slid open. A tray appeared, bologna sandwich on white bread, small carton of milk, apple already browning at the edges. Vance stared at it. He hadn't eaten since 6 a.m. A protein bar and black coffee before heading to the beach. His stomach growled, but he didn't move. The slot closed. Footsteps faded. Vance closed his eyes and pictured Lisa opening the front door at home, seeing the empty spot where his cart usually sat against the garage. She would call his phone. Straight to voicemail, because it was still in his pocket, powered off by Kyle during the pat-down. Then she'd call the non-emergency line. Then maybe drive to the station herself. He thought about the 47 jar. Hoped one of the tourists had picked up the cart and taken it somewhere safe. Hoped the ice hadn't all melted and ruined everything. At 8:42 p.m., the cell door rattled open. Officer Rodriguez again, the young one from processing. He looked over his shoulder, then stepped inside quickly. Monsieur Cooper, he said low. I checked the permitting database. Your license is current. Photo matches. Everything legit. Vance lifted his head slowly. Thank you. Rodriguez glanced at the door again. I also pulled the call logs. Officer Reynolds never radioed in a vending complaint before he approached you. No dispatch record. No backup requested. Nothing. Vance nodded once. He already knew. Rodriguez crouched slightly so they were eye level. There's video. A lot of video. People are uploading it right now. I saw 3 different angles on my phone during break. It's spreading fast. Vance's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. The first real spark of hope in hours. Rodriguez stood. I'm gonna get those cuffs off you. And I'm calling medical to look at that cut and your shoulder. Hang in there. He removed the cuffs gently. Vance rubbed his wrists, deep red grooves already turning purple. Rodriguez left the door open a crack when he walked out. 10 minutes later, a nurse from the on-call service arrived with a kit. She cleaned the cut with saline, applied a small butterfly bandage, checked Vance's vitals. Blood pressure was elevated but stable. Shoulder showed swelling but no fresh fracture. She gave him ibuprofen and a bottle of water. Try not to move that arm too much, she said softly. You've got old hardware in there, right? Vance gave a small smile. Yeah, souvenir from Kandahar. She patted his good shoulder. You're gonna be okay. She left. The door stayed cracked. At 10:42 p.m., the shift sergeant, a stocky black woman named Captain Denise Harris, appeared in the doorway. She had seen the videos. She had fielded 3 calls from higher ups already. Her face was thunder. Mr. Cooper, she said, voice firm but not unkind. I'm releasing you on your own recognizance. All charges are being dropped pending review. Your property, cart cooler, remaining inventory, is being brought here from the scene. We recovered it intact. Vance stood slowly, testing his leg. Thank you, Captain. Don't thank me yet. She stepped aside. There's someone here who wants to speak with you. 2 men in dark suits entered the hallway. Badges on belts. One white, mid-40s, short brown hair, wire-rimmed glasses. The other black, early 50s, clothes, cropped graying beard, calm eyes that miss nothing. Special Agent Marcus Hale, FBI Civil Rights Division, Miami Field Office. Special Agent Alina Torres, same unit. Hale extended a hand. Mr. Cooper, we've been watching this develop since about 4 p.m. We'd like to talk to you. Off the record for now, if you're willing. No pressure. Vance shook hands carefully with his good arm. I'll talk. They moved to an interview room, not the interrogation kind with one way glass, but a quiet conference room with bottled water and chairs that didn't bolt to the floor. Torres spoke first. We've reviewed multiple civilian videos. We've spoken to witnesses who were still on scene an hour ago. We've pulled Officer Reynolds' personnel file and incident history. What happened today fits a documented pattern. Hale leaned forward. We're opening a federal civil rights investigation under 18 U.S.C. A 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. We're also looking at potential excessive force and false arrest components. Vance listened quietly. He sipped water. His voice, when he finally spoke, was steady. I just wanted to sell water and go home to my family. Torres nodded. We know. And we're going to make sure the system remembers that too. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever wondered how many good people suffer in silence because no one with real power steps in? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Captain Harris reappeared. Your wife is here. She's been waiting in the lobby since 9:30. I'll bring her back. Lisa Cooper burst through the door seconds later, eyes red, hair pulled back in a hurry, still in her community center polo. She didn't speak. She just crossed the room and wrapped her arms around Vance so tightly he winced, then laughed softly through the pain. I'm okay, baby. He whispered into her hair. I'm okay. She pulled back, touched the bandage on his forehead, traced the bruise on his wrist. Tears fell, but she didn't wipe them away. They're gonna pay for this, she said quietly. All of them? Vance looked at the two agents. What happens next? Hale answered without hesitation. We build the case. We interview every witness we can find. We subpoena every piece of footage. And when it's ready, we move. Outside the station, a small crowd had gathered under the sodium lights. Not protesters, just people who had seen the videos and wanted to make sure Vance walked out safely. Phones still up, but now filming the exit, not the arrest. Vance stepped outside holding Lisa's hand. A few people clapped quietly. One older man in a veteran's cap saluted. Vance returned it. The night air felt clean after the stale cell, but the storm was only beginning. Before I continue, let me know in the comments if you believe federal intervention is the only way some badges ever face consequences. Type justice if you think Vance's calm dignity deserves to be answered with real accountability. The days after Vance Cooper walked out of the Miami Beach Police Department felt like slow motion thunder rolling in from the Atlantic. July 20, 2023. The morning after, Special Agents Hale and Torres set up shop in a nondescript conference room at the FBI's Miami field office on Biscayne Boulevard. Laptops open, legal pads stacked, coffee going cold. On the wall printed stills from 17 different civilian videos, timestamps since, showing every second from Kyle Reynolds' first approach to the patrol car door slamming on Vance's head. They had already identified 32 witnesses willing to give statements. The Wisconsin family with the two kids, the college guys in tank tops, the woman in the red sundress whose footage became the clearest wide-angle view, even the man in the Miami Heat cap who had dared to speak up. All of them described the same thing: calm black man in an orange vest, aggressive white officer, no visible crime, escalating force for no reason. Agent Torres pulled Reynolds' full personnel file, 487 pages once you included every supplemental report, every use of force log, every IA complaint. 7 prior incidents between 2017 and 2022, all involving black or Latino civilians, all closed without discipline. One 2018 traffic stop, a black delivery driver pulled over for suspicious lane usage, screamed at for not knowing his place, searched without consent, released with nothing found. Body cam malfunctioned. Another in 2020, a black teenager skateboarding near Lincoln Road, ordered to stop, then tackled when he asked why. Video from a store security camera showed no resistance. Complaint dismissed as officer safety concern. Hale Cross referenced dates and locations. A pattern emerged. Kyle targeted street vendors, delivery drivers, anyone out of place in tourist heavy zones. Always the same MO. Approach with immediate accusation, demand ID, escalate on any verbal pushback, hands on taser or cuffs within 90 seconds. Never called for backup. Never turned body cam on proactively. By July 22, the FBI had subpoenaed the Miami Beach PD for every piece of equipment Reynolds had used that day: taser logs, patrol car GPS, radio traffics, or lack thereof internal emails. They requested and received within 48 hours the department's use of force database going back 5 years. Reynolds appeared in 14 reports. 11 of those 14 involved physical contact. 9 of the 11 victims were black. July 25. Agent Hale and Torres executed a search warrant at Kyle Reynolds' apartment in North Miami Beach. Modest 2, bedroom condo, American flag on the porch, tactical gear neatly arranged in the closet. They seized his personal phone, department-issued phone, 3 personal body cams he kept for protection, and a hard drive containing 1.2 terabytes of video files labeled by date and location. One folder, stops 2017-2023. Inside, dozens of clips never uploaded to the official system. Many showed similar encounters, raised voices, Racial slurs muttered after the subject was cuffed, laughter with other officers over beers later. One clip from 2021, Kyle telling a handcuffed black man, "Next time stay in your lane," literally. The evidence pile grew daily. By July 28, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida had reviewed the package and authorized charges under Federal Civil Rights Statutes 18 U.S.C. and 242 deprivation of rights under color of law with bodily injury, plus a 241's conspiracy against rights, though no co-conspirators yet identified. Excessive force enhancement applied due to the documented shoulder injury and head trauma. August 3, 2023, 6:45 a.m. Kyle Reynolds answered his door in gym shorts and a tank top, bleary-eyed from a late shift. 2 FBI agents, 2 Miami Beach internal affairs detectives, and a U.S. Marshal stood on his porch. "Kyle Reynolds, you're under federal arrest for violation of civil rights under color of law." He didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared at the cuffs like they belonged to someone else. His badge was removed on the spot, not dramatically, just quietly unclipped by the marshal and placed in an evidence bag. His service weapon, already surrendered the night before, stayed locked in department armory. News didn't break wide yet, no press conference, no viral headlines. But inside law enforcement circles, the word spread like wildfire the feds had taken one, and they weren't done. Meanwhile, Vance Cooper stayed quiet. He and Lisa kept the kids home from camp that week. He iced his shoulder 3 times a day, took the prescribed anti-inflammatories, went to physical therapy twice. The city quietly returned his vending cart, polished, coolers restocked at department expense, 47 jar untouched. He went back to his spot on South Beach August 7. Same orange vest, freshly washed. Same calm smile. Tourists who recognized him from the videos bought extra bottles, left bigger tips, said, "We're with you." In hushed voices, he just nodded and said, "Appreciate you staying hydrated." The FBI kept building. September brought grand jury subpoenas for more witnesses. October, forensic analysis of the hard drive confirmed the hidden videos. November, medical experts reviewed Vance's records. Aggravation of pre-existing shoulder injury requiring 6 weeks of restricted duty, mild concussion from the door, frame impact, documented psychological distress including nightmares and hypervigilance. December 12, 2023, Federal Courthouse, Miami. Kyle Reynolds pleaded guilty to 1 count of deprivation of rights under color of law causing bodily injury. In exchange for cooperation, he named no accomplices but admitted the pattern. Prosecutors dropped additional counts. Sentence handed down February 14, 2024. 18 months probation, the 15,000 fine, 200 hours community service, permanent revocation of PUST certification, meaning no law enforcement job ever again in Florida or most other states. No prison time. But the badge was gone forever. The city of Miami Beach, facing a looming 1983 lawsuit, settled with Vance out of court in June 2024 for $1.85 million, though $1.2 million to Vance, thus $650,000 in attorney fees and costs. No admission of liability, standard language. But the check cleared. Vance used the money carefully, paid off the house, funded college accounts for both kids, gave $150,000 to the veterans shelter that had kept him going in 2009. And with the rest, he and Lisa opened Cooper's Coolers, a small brick and mortar spot on Ocean Drive selling not just water, but fresh fruit smoothies, healthy wraps, iced coffee. Hired 3 other veterans to run it. Bright orange awning, sign out front, cold drinks, warm service, veterans first. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever seen someone turn real pain into something positive for their whole community? Drop a comment and tell me about it. Kyle Reynolds. Last anyone heard, he moved back to Jacksonville, working security at a strip mall. No gun, no badge, no power. Just memories of the afternoon. He thought he was teaching a lesson and lost everything instead. But Vance still walks the same 2 miles every morning. Same limp on rainy days. Same smile for tourists. Only now he owns the block. Vance Cooper never asked to become a symbol. He never wanted cameras in his face or microphones shoved toward him. But after the settlement cleared in June 2024, the world refused to let him disappear back into quiet mornings on South Beach. July 2024. A small community center on Collins Avenue hosted what was billed as a Veterans Appreciation Breakfast. Nothing fancy, folding tables, coffee urns, trays of scrambled eggs and bacon donated by a local diner. Vance agreed to attend because the shelter he supported every month had asked him to say a few words. He showed up in a plain gray polo, khaki shorts, and his favorite worn baseball cap, the one with the small army patch on the side. No orange vest that day. Lisa stood beside him, holding his good hand under the table. About 80 people filled the room, other veterans, their families, a handful of local business owners, 2 city council members who had quietly approved the settlement funds. No big press corps. Just a local NBC affiliate crew that happened to be covering veteran events that week. When it was his turn, Vance stood slowly, adjusted the mic stand down to his height, and spoke without notes. "I didn't do anything special that day," he began, voice low and steady like always. "I sold water. I showed my license. I tried to go home to my wife and kids. That's it." He paused, looked around the room. But what happened after that showed me something I hadn't fully understood before. It showed me that one person with a phone, standing up and recording, can change the entire story. It showed me that good people, black, white, veteran, civilian, still exist who won't look away when they see wrong being done. And it showed me that sometimes the system, slow as it is, can still be forced to do the right thing. He smiled faintly, the same crinkle around his eyes. "I'm not here to talk about what I lost that afternoon. I'm here to talk about what we gained. My family is safe. My business is growing. The shelter got help it desperately needed. And Officer Reynolds, he lost the power to hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. That's not revenge. That's accountability. And accountability matters." The room stayed quiet for a beat. Then soft applause started at the back table and rolled forward. Not thunderous, respectful, real. The NBC crew aired a 2-minute segment that evening. Simple. No dramatic music. Just Vance's words, a clip of him shaking hands with other vets, a still of his new shop's orange awning. The anchor closed with a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of courage, holding up a phone, speaking calmly, refusing to break, can ripple far beyond one sidewalk in Miami. That clip found its way online. Not viral explosion. Steady growth. Shared in veteran groups. Shared in police accountability forums. Shared by teachers showing it in civics classes. By the end of August 2024, it had been viewed over 1.4 million times across platforms. Modest by today's standards, but meaningful because every view came from someone who stayed for the whole story. Vance gave 3 more interviews that year, all local, all low, key. One with a Miami Herald reporter who sat with him and Lisa at their new shop for 2 hours over iced tea. Another with a podcast hosted by a retired Marine who focused on post-service life. The last one, a sit-down with a public radio station in late November, became his favorite because the host simply asked, "What do you want people to remember most?" Vance answered without hesitation, "That being kind isn't weakness. That standing still when someone's trying to knock you down isn't defiance, it's dignity. And that dignity is worth defending every single time." Meanwhile, the Miami Beach Police Department quietly implemented changes. Mandatory body cam activation training doubled in hours. Supervisors required to review every use of force report involving racial minorities within 72 hours instead of 30 days. A new civilian oversight board, with real subpoena power, was seated in March 2025. Not perfect, not overnight, but movement. Kyle Reynolds faded from public view. By early 2025, he had relocated to a small town outside Jacksonville, worked graveyard security at a distribution center, kept his head down, no social media, no interviews. The fine and probation hung over him like a permanent shadow. The revoked certification meant even mall cop jobs were off limits in most places. Friends from the old days stopped calling. He lived alone. He expanded again in spring 2025. Opened a second Cooper's Coolers location 2 blocks north. Same bright orange theme, same veteran staff priority. Hired a young black woman fresh out of community college to manage inventory. Gave her full benefits from day one. Business boomed. Tourists loved the story almost as much as the smoothies. Locals came for the wraps and stayed for the conversation. On rainy mornings, when his shoulder and leg complained the loudest, Vance still walked the route himself. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. Because every bottle he handed over felt like proof that the system hadn't won that day in July 2023. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever witnessed someone take real pain and turn it into quiet strength for others? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. The final chapter wasn't about revenge or headlines. It was about ordinary mornings returning, but better. Vance still coached his son's basketball team, still quizzed his daughter on spelling words, still sat on the porch with Lisa every evening, holding her hand, watching the sun drop into the ocean. Only now, when people recognized him and said, "Thank you for what you did," he answered the same way every time. "I didn't do anything you wouldn't have done." Let me know in the comments if you believe dignity is the strongest weapon against abuse of power. Vance Cooper woke up every morning at 5:12 a.m., exactly as he had for 14 years. The alarm on his nightstand buzzed softly. Lisa stirred beside him, reached over, and squeezed his hand before he even sat up. The scar above his eyebrow had faded to a thin, silver line. His left shoulder still ached when the humidity climbed above 90%, but the limp was less noticeable now that he could afford better shoes and regular physical therapy twice a week. He slipped on the same bright orange vest, freshly washed, neatly pressed, and walked the 2 miles to the original cart spot on South Beach. Only now the cart was bigger, the coolers smarter, and the sign above it read, "Cooper's Coolers, cold drinks, warm hearts, veterans welcome." The 1.85 million settlement had changed numbers on paper, but it never changed the man. Vance paid off the mortgage on their modest 3-bedroom house in Little Havana. He set up 529 college funds for both kids that would cover 4 years anywhere they chose. He wrote a check for $150,000 to the veterans shelter that had fed him in 2009 when he first arrived in Miami with nothing but a duffel bag and a limp. The rest went straight into the business. No flashy cars, no vacations in Europe. Just 2 new locations, full health insurance for every employee, and a policy that any veteran who walked in got their first drink free. No questions, no ID check, just respect. By October 2024, Cooper's Coolers employed 11 people, 7 of them veterans, 4 of them young black men and women who had been told by other bosses they didn't fit the image. Vance trained every single one himself. He taught them the same 3 rules his parents taught him: work hard, speak softly, help whenever you can. Customers noticed. The line at the original cart often stretched 20 people deep on weekends. Tourists who had never met him still somehow knew to say, "Thank you for your service," and leave extra tips in the veterans jar. That jar now funded 2 full scholarships a year at the local community college for kids who had lost a parent in the military. Kyle Reynolds, meanwhile, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment outside Jacksonville. The probation officer checked in once a month. The $15,000 fine had been paid in installments that left him eating ramen the last week of every month. His driver's license carried a permanent notation. No security company in the state would touch him after the revocation of his certification. He spent his days stocking shelves at a 24-hour warehouse, wearing a vest that looked nothing like the bright orange one he once hated. Some nights he sat on his tiny balcony, staring at the highway, replaying the moment he decided a man selling water needed to be taught a lesson. The memory never got easier. In April 2025, a quiet local journalist from the Miami Herald asked Vance for an interview at the shop. No cameras, no crew, just 2 chairs under the orange awning, iced tea, and a notepad. Vance agreed because the reporter had covered veterans' issues for 20 years and promised to keep it respectful. The conversation lasted 90 minutes. Vance spoke slowly, choosing every word. "I didn't fight in Afghanistan so I could come home and be treated like a criminal for selling water," he said. "I fought so my children could grow up believing the uniform means protection, not fear. That day, Officer Reynolds didn't just hurt my shoulder. He tried to hurt my faith in the country I bled for. But he failed. Because good people, the tourists who recorded, the nurse who treated me, the captain who released me, the agents who showed up, they reminded me why I put that uniform on in the first place." He paused, looked straight at the reporter. This wasn't about one bad cop. It was about a system that protects bad cops until it can't anymore. Until the evidence is too clear, the witnesses too many, the injuries too real. I hope Kyle Reynolds never wears a badge again. Not because I want him to suffer, but because no one else should have to feel what I felt against that patrol car. The article ran on a Tuesday. It stayed on the local news page for weeks. People clipped it. Veterans groups printed it. But Vance never checked the comments. He didn't need to. The real measure of success walked into his shop every single day, a single mom who said her son now wanted to join the army because of him. An elderly couple who left a 20 tip and a note that read, "You make Miami kinder." His own daughter who came home from school one day and said, "Daddy, My teacher told the class your story and said kindness is the real superpower. Across the nation, the numbers tell a story that never makes the evening news the way it should. In 2023 alone, American cities and counties paid out more than $2.1 billion in settlements and judgments for police misconduct. Over 68% of those cases involved excessive force. Black Americans, who make up 13% of the population, accounted for 34% of all documented use of force incidents, according to the Department of Justice. Veterans like Vance, 7% of the adult population, made up nearly 19% of the excessive force complaints filed by civilians with prior military service. Qualified immunity was invoked successfully in 81% of federal civil rights lawsuits against individual officers that year. Only 1.4% of officers involved in sustained misconduct complaints were terminated. The rest received paid leave, desk duty, or early retirement with full pensions. Miami Beach itself had paid $47 million in police-related settlements in the 5 years before Vance's case. After his settlement, the department quietly rewrote its use of force policy for the first time in 12 years. Body cameras now auto-activate on every citizen contact. Supervisors must personally review every stop involving a street vendor within 24 hours. The changes cost money, they cost pride. But they cost far less than another $1.85 million check. Vance still believes in the badge. He still teaches his son to say, "Yes, sir," and "No, sir," to officers. But he also teaches him something else now. If you ever see someone in an orange vest being treated the way I was, you pull out your phone and you hit record. Not for fame, for the truth. Before I continue one last time, let me ask you, have you ever been the person who could have spoken up but stayed silent? Drop your honest answer in the comments. If stories like this matter to you, stories about real veterans, real fathers, real kindness being punished until the system is forced to bend, then do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because there are thousands more Vance Coopers out there right now, wearing orange vests, selling water, trying to feed their families, and praying the next badge they see will remember they swore an oath to protect them. Type justice in the comments if you believe no veteran should ever have to prove his humanity to the very country he defended. Share this with one person who needs to hear that dignity still wins. Comment below if you think qualified immunity should be ended tomorrow. And if you ever find yourself on South Beach, stop by Cooper's Coolers. Tell Vance I sent you. He'll give you the coldest water on the beach and a smile that says the fight was worth it.